Hello there, this is Mike Andersson, lead singer in the Swedish band called Tungsten.
What is your earliest musical memory?
Well, it was very early. I think I was 3 or 4 years old, playing piano. I was found out that my parents had a piano in one of the rooms in the house where I grew up. So that I remember very clearly. That's where everything started for me, actually. And I think listening to music, I was very fond of this song Baker Street by, I think it was Gary Rafferty or something. That song I remember, I was very, very young. I think 4 or 5 years old when I heard that song, and I was, oh Jesus, this is awesome song. So yeah.
Did you play an instrument in school?
Yes. The first instrument in school was the recorder, the flute recorder. But later on I took piano lessons and guitar lessons as well. So yeah, but the things I know today is more or less self-taught. So because when I played piano and guitar in school, it was more or less classical stuff, you know. So like many other kids, I grew a little bit tired of it because that's... Nowadays I love classical music, but when you're at the age of 8, 9, 10 years old, I don't think classical music is really what you're after when you want to learn to play an instrument.
Were you exposed to music by your family as a child?
No, I found out it myself because... as a matter of fact, I am adopted. I have met my biological mother many years ago. Never met my father though, because yeah, he had some illness when I got in touch, when I started to elaborate and look for my ancestors and stuff. But I know that my father had some musical abilities and played in band and played the instrument, so to speak, but on a very amateurish level, so to speak. But I might have it through the veins from him, so to speak, because my mother was not at all interested. But when it comes to my adoptive parents, who I consider is my real parents, of course, because that's where I grew up, they are the ones making sure I got a good childhood and a good upbringing. They were not musical either, absolutely not, but they were very supportive to me and my musical interests when it comes to everything. They were always there backing me up.
What was the first concert you ever attended?
The Canadian band called Helix. They were about to release their, I think, 5th album called Long Way to Heaven. It was back in 1985, and I was 11 years old. And Helix did a Swedish tour. I think they had 10-15 shows on this tour. So they were one of the first foreign bands in Sweden to do this kind of tour in Sweden. So I was a happy champ being there at the football stadium. It sounds very big, but it wasn't that many people there. Yeah, a few thousands maybe. But it was a huge moment for me because I was so much into this band at the time as a little kid. Maybe you remember the song Rock You? Give me an R, R, O, O, C, C. So that was June 1, 1985. A very magical date for me.
What was the first record you ever bought with your own money?
I really don't remember. Because my parents bought so many during the 80s when I was still a kid. But it could have been, I remember I had this extra job when I was in the early teens. Could it be Odyssey by Yngwie Malmsteen, for example, in 1988? That I actually bought for my own earned money. Could have been. I'm not really sure, but It was around that year, 1988. Anyway, I was 13, about to be 14, I think. So, but let's say Yngwie J. Malmsteen's Rising Force and Odyssey.
How much of a role has music played in your life?
Everything. I mean, ever since I was 3-4 years old and I started playing this piano where I grew up, I've been into music ever since. I mean, I've been a professional musician, or at least partly. I mean, I do have a day job. It's not easy to earn that much so you can live on the music, even though I have some nice income. But yeah, I've been a professional musician partly since 2004, when Cloudscape released their first album, my first official band. But yeah, before that I was into so many local bands in Helsingborg and the area where I grew up. And back in the 80s I recorded my demos on the tape recorder and an acoustic guitar. And one of my best friends, Christopher Malmström, guitar player in the band Darkane, me and him, we grew up together, so we did demos to each other that we switched back and forth in the mid 80s, late 80s. So yeah, music is written here on me. I love being an artist, I love to be a performer, and I love to be a music fan in general, just listening to music. Music is everything for me.
Do you have a favorite genre of music you like to listen to?
I do honestly listen to any kind of music that I consider is a good song is a good song, no matter genre. But of course I listen more to hard rock, metal, progressive stuff, and even that's melodic metal and, you know, AOR even. But that's where my heart is, so to speak. But I mean, nowadays I love Bee Gees. Staying Alive. I love Alphaville, Depeche Mode. Howard Jones is an old favorite since early 80s, before I even became a rocker. Toto, yeah, Toto is a little bit harder rockish, depending on what the album you listen to. But good music is good music, no matter what genre it is. I am more metal, but I do listen to everything from Meshuggah to Vivaldi and Beethoven. I mean,
do you have a favorite musical artist you like to listen to?
Yeah, I have a few. Yngwie Malmsteen, especially the area 1980. Yngwie from 80 through the 90s up till the millennium shift. Those 2 decades with Yngwie I was a big, huge fan of his. I loved his music, not only his playing, but especially his music during the 90s. The Seventh Sign, Magnum Opus, Facing the Animal, and in the 80s it was Trilogy, Marching Out, Odyssey and stuff. I mean, I was totally into Yngwie Malmsteen. One of my first favorite bands actually was Helix, was very early. But I think Whitesnake was even earlier. But those I found out about even before I consider myself being a rocker. You know, that was 1980 or something, or 81. 81 it must have been, when I heard Here I Go Again for the first time, the original version. And from that moment on, I'm a big fan of David Coverdale. So Rush is another Canadian band trio. Neil Peart is not with us anymore. Rest in peace, please. Toto. Yeah, lots of bands. I mean, but those I'm mentioning, I think, are the ones I love the most. Dream Theater. And when it comes to newer bands, Symphony X, they're not that new anymore. The 90s, but still, compared to the others, they are kind of new.
Do you have a favorite record or song?
That's like impossible to answer, because this answer will differ from interview to interview depending on my mood. But let's say I will not tell my 10 favorite albums, but I can just choose one of them. For example, let's say Come and Get It with Whitesnake. This one with Don't Break My Heart Again, Till the Day I Die, Wine, Women and Song, etc. That is one of those albums that I would bring to a deserted album. And I could easily pick a song from that album too to answer the sub-question in this question, but I will go for another album just for the fun of it. A song that I have love as much today as I did the first time I listened to it, let's say Crystal Ball by Yngwie J. Malmsteen from the Odyssey record. Crystal Ball I still freaking adore. It still gives me the bumps. It's playing and the song structure, the Jolene Turner's vocals, everything. That song is so freaking awesome still today. It was released back in 1988 after he had this car accident. So yeah. So that's my answer. The favorite record is Whitesnake's Come and Get It, and the favorite song is Yngwie J. Malmsteen's Crystal Ball.
Do you have a song you would like played at your funeral?
Well, I haven't thought myself at the funeral. I'm not that kind of guy planning for my passing. But Stairway to Heaven? I would maybe And You and I by Yes, for example, the Close to the Edge album. Yeah. Who Wants to Live Forever by Queen. Queen is another band I hold very dear, listen very often to. So Who Wants to Live Forever? Yeah. That's my answer, because that's nothing I even been thinking much about anyway. So that's about it. Thank you for watching, and you guys take care. Stay metal. Cheers.